Okay, welcome back to another episode of the Shed Geek Podcast, and I'm here in North Carolina. I seem to be down here a lot. I don't know. Here lately, North Carolina and Texas just seem to be showing up on the radar. But I've got Chris and Cynthia here with me, and I'll just, if you don't care, I'll let you guys take a turn each and introduce yourself. Tell the audience a little bit about who you are and your company and what you do.
Sure. My name is Cynthia Kaminski. I'm the owner and operator of a.k.a. Solar. We are a green energy company who focuses on getting people energy efficiency, sustainability.
Nice.
We do battery-based solar. We can also do wind, hydro, and geothermal. But most of our business is solar because that's the big thing right now.
Sure.
And we just like to use the technology the best way it can be applied. And if it's not going to work for the customer, we won't do it.
There you go.
So I'm here with my lead engineer and my fiance, Chris Boston.
Hello.
So Chris, you're kind of what's sort of your role? Like installation with solar?
Everything.
Okay, everything. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I design the systems, do all the math behind the systems to make sure everything's going to operate properly, design all the fusing and wiring and pretty much everything to make it work for the customer. So.
Very nice. So you guys have been doing this for a little while, I guess, huh?
Yeah, we started officially at the end of May 2019, right before COVID hit.
Nice.
We actually started out of our garage. We had $3,000, an idea, and a little bit of space, and just took a chance and tried to do good work, good quality. And early on, we had to decide, he's truck boss, I'm office boss. We've done my job, your job. So that helps us stay off each other's toes.
Sure. No, that's good. You know, a lot of these large companies that you look back and see, $3,000 in a dream in a garage was just enough, you know, for
That's all it takes.
Harley Davidson and, you know, Apple and so many other companies. So who knows where it's going to go, right? So you hear the name a.k.a. Solar. So obviously solar stands out immediately. And whenever you think about sheds, we have a lot of folks that like to have solar installation in there for multiple reasons, right? Whether it's off-grid living, trying to do something in a tiny home or a more finished out shed, but even just a basic shed that they just want some sunlight in. But I'm curious, where did Eco-Ethics come from? Where's the name? Who kind of did this?
That's her.
So
Okay.
we sat around for about a week and came up with different name ideas. And I have a biology background.
Okay.
So I sort of saw the business eventually as being a bit more encompassing to include like permaculture design, landscaping design, really working with nature and the landscape
Sure.
because I'm lazy, even when I garden. And other people say you're just efficient. I don't want to go weed every day. I want plants that once they're in the ground, or once something's in, it can handle itself, and I don't have to worry about it. And so we were like, well, let's do ecologically because we want to be, work with nature and not disturb nature too much.
Nice.
And we definitely want to maintain ethics in everything we do because I
Sure.
think there still can be honor in business.
Yes.
And so, and the solar was just the big thing. We didn't realize we were going to expand past solar, but it's sort of been something that we've been pushed into by our customers.
Yeah.
And it's fairly easy to transition to other renewable sources.
Yeah.
So that was one of the names they came up with, and we try to stand by our name.
Well, it makes a lot of sense. When you hear solar, I mean, that's there's so much to it, right? There's been so many like incentives, especially here lately, tax incentives and things like that to create that as an alternative energy source. So tell me kind of like how you ran into the shed industry, because it makes sense whenever you've got a box that people like to throw their extra stuff in, or who knows, even like I said, going all the way up to tiny homes.
Right.
What made you say, hey, it makes sense to have this product and incorporate it into the shed industry?
It's actually all attributed to Chris and my father. We were together for a family dinner one day, and my dad's always like, what are you guys doing? How's it going to work? And he and Chris were just talking about the different applications, and he's got a shed in his backyard from, I'm guessing, the early to mid-90s.
Okay.
And it's pre-wired. And he said, man, I wish if I had the solar option, I've got it pre-wired, but I have to run a drop cord, and then I have to remember not to mow over it.
Right.
And then I'm not going to pay to trench it, even though it's maybe 3 car lengths from the house.
Yeah.
He said, but if I'd had a solar option, that'd be great. And so Chris was like, oh, that could be. And he said, just take some time, go talk to some of the local shed companies, see if there's an interest. And even to this day, that is the only day I've ever done cold calls. And it was actually cold visits. I went to 3 different manufacturers in the area, just stopped in, and one of them took a chance on us. And only cold call or cold visit we've ever done.
Nice.
Very true.
Have you considered adding a line of shed accessory items to your sales lot?
Introducing Shedderize. Shedderize has multiple items to organize your customer's new shed. From tool shelves to workbenches with pegboard, 3-tier shelves, cord and ladder hooks, and more.
Shedderize is seeking shed manufacturers and dealers who want to partner and make these items available for your customers.
Dealers can order items for display, then complete an order form and have the items shipped directly to the customer. You can also purchase in bulk to add to your line of sheds or have inventory available right there at your sales lot. Installation is simple and takes just a few minutes for most items.
To know more, contact Dave Fisher at 866-548-1625 or visit Shedderize.com.
Shedderize, organization made easy. So, creativity. I mean, what a cool thing.
Yeah.
You're sitting there and you guys are talking about, hey, here's a problem. We need to create a solution. So what kind of became that initial solution whenever you started working with the shed industry, offering full off-grid, components, or something a little more simple? What was sort of the thought?
Well, I mean, that's the solution is, I like to build circuits. I build audio mixers just like this. I'll build different kinds of circuitry. So it was really fun to take different off-the-shelf components to come up with this solution for that industry.
Okay.
So giving people a certain size of an inverter, certain size battery bank, and that's what I do mostly, is just the calculations to make sure that the solar panels are going to be able to recharge the battery in enough time for how much you're taking out of the battery. So
Gotcha.
it's a balance that we're always going for with our systems.
I love your technical explanation already. I can tell that your technical mind is like constantly hitting. Let's get into that. Let's go a little bit farther. What makes solar work? How does this work for whenever you think about? So who might be listening to be a shed manufacturer, somebody who's selling sheds,
Right.
shed haulers? Kind of give me the simple explanation
Okay.
of how it works.
Absolutely. So the simplest explanation I can think of is an inverter just pulls power from the battery. It takes DC power that's in your battery, and it turns it into 120 volt AC power like you would have in your house.
Mm-hmm.
That's the simplest thing. If you think of the solar panels, it's just a fancy way to charge a battery. It's the simplest way I can put it. It makes DC power, that's converted, that charges your battery up.
Gotcha.
So really all it is just a fancy way to charge batteries, and wind is the same way. Mm-hmm. So even with wind power, we're just charging our batteries, and the inverter's the heart of the system, so it's pulling from the batteries and converting it to that AC power that you would normally use in your house. And that's pretty much the whole system.
So the goal is to keep that inverter with enough power to be able to resource what you want it to do.
Yeah. So that's the idea, and we always want more coming in than we have going out.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate goal, but the clouds don't always work with us, things
Sure.
like that. But that's kind of like some of the design elements of this system, because a lot of times when people are doing projects in their backyard shed, they're not doing it on a rainy day.
Right.
They do it on the nice, pretty day. Okay, I want to go out and build something, or work with my kids to build a birdhouse, or a project around the house or something. It's on a nice sunny day,
Yeah.
and on those days you should have surplus power from your panels and your inverter and stuff. So.
And the whole key, really, I'm thinking, is they're just trying to accomplish a small task,
Right.
But you have alternatives for the much larger task.
Yeah.
But you're independent. You're off grid, right?
Yeah,
so that's the whole key. Is
Right.
the clouds might not be cooperative, but you're not also dealing with a power cord stretched across the lawn that
Right.
you've mowed up 3 or 4 times, right?
Or the power bill.
Or the power bill.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the other beauty of the system too is a lot of people, they're doing these things on the weekends. We all work during the week. So they go out on the weekends. Well, let's say you did drain your battery, whatever, on the weekend, but you completed your project. Well, throughout the week, even if the clouds are bad or whatever, it's still charging. It might charge a little less when it's cloudy and a little more when it's sunny, but the next weekend when you're ready to use it again, the system is fully charged and ready to go. Not to say that you can't use it every day, but it's very weather dependent.
Sure.
So we don't want to discharge the battery too much to the point that the system shuts down. Now, it'll still wake back up and recharge, but we try to avoid that.
I gotcha. Hey guys, this is the Shed Geek, and I'm here to tell you about the latest in financial innovation to hit the shed industry. It's a program called Backyard Finance. Everywhere I go, shed manufacturers and shed sellers are always asking, how can I get a better payment option for my customer? At Backyard Finance, they're making this a reality. You might be asking, how do I sign up? Simple, just go to Backyard Finance, click on the Get Started Now button, and create an account. After that, you'll have 200 plus banks competing to give your customer the best financial terms possible. With Backyard Finance, you can service your customers two ways, direct to customer lending or direct to merchant lending. With direct to merchant lending, simply fill out an application. It takes about 2 to 4 weeks to process that application, but it'll allow you a variety of financing options to make you a more competitive retailer. With FICO scores as low as 500, 600, or 700 plus, your customers will receive financing options with APRs as low as 2.99% or as high as 29.99%. Credit applications are approved in just 15 to 45 seconds. To know more, contact Backyard Finance at 833-692-2286 or email info@backyardfinance.com today. Backyard Finance, funding backyard dreams. So you guys have kind of built a model that's a little bit more exclusive to what you have in mind for most shed customers or what they would want. Cynthia, you want to talk about that? It's the Sun Saver, is that right?
Yeah.
I love the name, so I love what you guys are doing with like your marketing. So.
Yeah, so we actually have been doing a modular level of the Sun Saver for the past 2 years. And in that time, we've run into problems, both in the manufacturing and installing, and then also on the manufacturer and sales side. One of the big problems originally was the Sun Saver had, or the prior to the Sun Saver, we had sealed lead acid batteries, which are, fancy word, AGM, absorbed glass mat. They're still lead acid, and the problem with lead acid is you can only discharge to 50% before you risk doing damage to the battery. Now, no matter how much you tell the customer and do labels and training,
sure,
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because we get forgetful. We're very spoiled with the grid and power always being there like magic.
Right.
So one of the things we fixed in the Sun Saver is now it's lithium-based. Lithium batteries don't mind being discharged to 0. You don't want to do it all the time. Mm-hmm. Ideally, go down to 20 and then give it some juice. But in the event it goes to 0, you don't risk internal damage to the ability of the battery to bounce back to full capacity.
Gotcha.
And so that eliminates a lot of customer error for the end user, and a lot of, reduced risk, reduced cost of, I've hurt my battery, now I have to replace it.
Sure.
We've also made the unit where it's all in one, ready to go. So we just put a panel on the roof. We have a quick connect that connects to the top of the unit. The unit has a inverter, charger, and charge controller and fusing breakers built in, and then the batteries are incorporated into the back portion of the unit. So once it's plugged into the panel, you've got a GFC on the side, plug in, you've got power. So I think it's 8 screws for the panel, 4 screws for the unit, one quick connect, and then plug your power in.
Yeah, pretty simple installation process.
Yeah, even to the point where the end customer could install it themselves if they're a little handy. So
even a geek could do it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, good to know, because so it can sound intimidating whenever you don't know the technical components or technical wording,
right?
For lack of a better way to say it, of whenever you're talking about all these different components, they sound very intimidating. Yeah, and it's actually much easier than what you would expect. We maybe can even do like a little video showing like what an installation looks like, or what's one of these look like, to show the customers. But So your goal is maybe to reach some manufacturers and say, hey, are you interested in, partnering with Eco-Ethics to, we can provide these units and then you can install these and then sell more sheds, which is everybody's goal. That's
absolutely
that's got sheds built.
Yeah,
so.
Very much so. We would love to work with manufacturers because some of the things that we've run into historically when we were doing the installs on every site is sometimes at the manufacturer level, the system would be installed. It would go to the lot. The lot would or would not lock the shed. And so we would have a couple of issues of theft where people would take the battery or they take the inverter. With the units going to the manufacturer, they could actually hold the units back right until delivery to the customer, either from the manufacturer or even at the shed lot level, and say, okay, today we've got 3 sheds going out. It only takes about 30 to 40 minutes to install one of these. Let's go ahead and pop it on.
Yep.
There's no time for it to sit and be messed with.
Yeah.
Right. So that's one thing that we are trying to solve is the opportunity between the manufacturer and the end user.
And we've also spent a lot of time learning our customer with this unit. I mean, that's the beauty of the past few years is we've really learned what the customer wants with this type of unit. And I think that's what we've came up with our new product.
What do you see most of the time in that? What do you feel like most end users want in their shed?
Well, everyone wants unlimited power. That's what they want. What they get is it's a limited power source. It's going to run the power tools when you want it to run them. I wouldn't run a commercial wood shop out of my shed.
Yeah.
But if I need to cut a board, if I need to do those kind of things, the power's always there for me.
Nice. And then you guys can get into, like I said, the bigger components, the bigger units, off grid or whatever it looks like. What does that look like? Do you get a lot of call from that from like the end user?
Yes.
Okay.
Everybody wants to have a tiny home, and the shed is the easiest footprint to start with. It's accessible. It's pretty much built out. You can make it what you want it fairly easily once you have it, and so everybody wants to have larger packages on it.
Yeah.
Whether we're doing a shed install, an RV install, an off-grid property, we tell people the same thing. There's a few items that you really don't want to run off of solar because it's not nuclear. It's very energy inefficient to heat with electricity because the transformation of energy, you have losses, and then Chris can get it more into this on the whys, but your HVAC system, your gas, your electric stove, your electric dryer, those are all, they pull heavily, and they pull for long periods of time. When that happens, if the sun's not out, which usually when we do those things, the sun's not out, it's going to drain your batteries very quickly. So we do recommend that when you're using anything for heating, that you do an alternative source, be it propane, natural gas, even wood stoves. Because even though they're not our ideal source, they're more energy dense, and you're going to get more bang for your buck on those sources, and keep your lower draw items for the solar, and then look for energy efficient appliances. But efficiency is really what's going to save us in terms of energy consumption.
That makes a lot of sense. Gosh, I love that. Like whole explanation. You can tell that like there's some education in there whenever you guys talk about these things. What's been your experience with the shed industry so far?
We love it. It's really interesting because everybody uses their sheds in a different way. So some people are doing a nail salon out of their backyard. Some people convert it into a small office. It might be a tiny home for someone.
Flower shops.
A flower shop, a wood shop, or just your backyard shed to store a bunch of stuff in. But everyone needs lights. Everyone needs to be able to run a few outlets and, run a few circuits here and there. So that's what we want to provide with this unit.
So you guys are actually able to provide this service, though, nationwide. I mean, you could drop ship if you've got a manufacturer who's interested in finding out more about it. You've got training. You've got YouTube tutorials. You've got
got whole handouts. We have a couple of potential clients in the manufacturing side, the Amish who don't use computers. So this is actually how I built the portfolio, is for the individuals I need to mail things to that weren't allowed because of their religion and their lifestyle to use the internet. And so I've got each of the packages. The SunSaver is the base unit, and that's more for, it's akin to our old Tools and More package, which is really meant for how we grew up using sheds. It's storage. You go out there, you turn a light on, you get something, maybe play on the radio and just get away from everybody, but it's not full-time living. From that base unit, we can actually add another box of batteries that can quick connect to the first box, give you what I consider the batteries as your gas tank. I like to liken it to a car.
Sure.
So the more batteries you have, the bigger the gas tank.
Yep.
The more panels you have, the quicker your gas pump is going to refill that gas tank.
Sure.
And then, of course, the inverter is going to determine how many things you can have running at a given moment, because it's kind of like either bandwidth or highway. You can only go so many cars wide depending on how many lanes you have. The bigger your inverter, the more lanes you have, so the more stuff can be going at once. If you try to overload the inverter, because it's too small, it's just going to beep at you and shut down. So safety feature, that's okay. But yeah, we can add more batteries, we can add more panels, and then depending on what you want to run, I even include a little cheat sheet and scenarios with each of our packages to say, given these same things, here's how long you can run on the SunSaver versus the next step up versus the next step up. Just trying to get people.
I mean, that's great. That's something they can make available to like the end user.
Yes.
To sort of understand, that way they're not just lost without any kind of direction on how does this work? How long is this going to last?
Absolutely.
All of our customers get a custom handout.
Yeah.
Nice.
So whether it's, all the sheds get handouts with this on here with a little explanation and our number. And so if you need any questions answered, call me. I love talking. I'll talk all day about this stuff.
You should do a solar podcast. Are you a shed manufacturer, dealer, or hauler looking for a trusted resource to build or upgrade your website? Do you need a simple business website or a more robust and dynamic e-commerce site? Are you looking for an affordable option with digital marketing solutions for your small business? Are you looking for paid ads using Google search engines or social media platforms to reach a new audience? If you answered yes to any of these questions, it's time to check out Troyer Websites of Texas. Did you know that 46% of the 5.6 billion searches made each day are for local businesses? At Troyer's, our SEO strategies will help you get on the first page of search results for your shed business. At Troyer Websites of Texas, you will be sure to get 5-star customer service with proficiency and skill. Troyer Websites just launched their managed digital services to incorporate all your marketing needs into a single dashboard. Here at the Shed Geek Podcast, we trusted the team at Troyer Websites of Texas to develop our website, and we couldn't be happier with the results. To know more or schedule a discovery call, simply contact the Shed Geek at 618-309-3648 or email info@shedgeek.com. I can sense the passion in both of you whenever from the minute we stepped in and just immediately started talking, I can sense that this is something you guys are very passionate about. How did you get into this? Like, how did you, what started like the thought of this?
Very different directions.
Yeah, that's a great story. So I've spent 20 years working in the audiovisual industry and learning circuitry and building circuits and audio mixers and all kinds of different things. Well, she was a biology teacher, and she was actually teaching on
photosynthesis.
Mm-hmm. So she was teaching about that, and I had just bought a bunch of solar cells, and I'm just sitting around bored soldering cells. I'm like, I'm going to make my own panel just because. Sitting at the kitchen table soldering these things.
Regular old Steve Wozniak, right?
Right.
just giving it a shot, see what happens.
Like, see what happens. And I'm testing voltage, and this works. And I built a small panel out of a picture frame that I picked up at Goodwill, soldered my own solar cells all together, and then
USB charging for phones.
Yeah, and I added a USB charger, and I was like, here, take this to school and integrate photovoltaic, which is what solar electric is, and then photosynthesis, and teach on both the points in your biology class. And she was always looking for a reason to go outdoors with her biology students.
Yeah.
Because biology doesn't happen in the classroom, it happens in the real world.
Yeah.
So she was always wanting a chance to go out, and I'm like, well, here's your chance. Take this panel, take the kids outside, set it in the sun, let them plug in their phones and charge their phones, and then it's going to click. Like, okay, this energy is being converted into electric energy, where a plant does it with photosynthesis, converts sugars and things like that into a different type of energy. But that's all energy is. It's just transformation.
Yeah.
This is great. This would have bored me to death around my sophomore, junior year in high school. And then at some point started to crave the knowledge.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is, so now it's interesting to me. Like, I feel like I'm sitting with solar royalty here listening to some of this. I love that you're educators too on top of that, but I identify with what you said so much that sort of the audio has to match the video, right? In that sense that you're trying to get it to click in a more simple way. You're meeting the students where they are,
right? To
say, hey, you understand the phone, you understand you want to charge. Let me kind of show you something cool. And it prompts questions, doesn't it? How does that work? Why does that do that? That's neat, but how does it actually work?
Exactly.
Yeah. So I had a whole day of like a lab where they had a lemon clock. You know, those old clocks where you could stick a lemon.
Yeah.
So we did lemons, apples, potatoes.
Okay.
They had a little photosynthesis video to watch. We looked at fall leaf colors, and then I pulled out the solar panel, and I was like, all right, so this works the same way. And it's emerging technology, which it is and it isn't. I mean, it's been around since, the 20s?
Yeah, solar's been around for a while.
The efficiency of the solar and the battery technology has just now come really into its own, where it's commercially available, financially feasible. And so I'm like, this is somewhere y'all can go if you're interested. This is a money maker, because a lot of kids don't see the connection between what they're taught and how they can apply it to personal gain, which is what we want. We want everyone to be gainful in this country and around the world.
Yeah.
But the way a lot of times things are taught, it's hard to translate it into where it could be usable and feasible. And my school was doing a good job of trying to integrate that. And I was just like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
So
I always feel that way with with teaching. I mean, on a recent episode, I talked about like the quote, if you judge a elephant by his ability to climb a tree, it's going to fail. So as a monkey, you're going to be successful every time. It's really about meeting people where they're understanding it. I think that's really good customer service too.
Oh yeah.
I think the customer service is trying to figure out where you are, as people are going to be at different levels of understanding, even with solar already. Right. When they hear this, some people might feel very intimidated by like the different wording, and then others are going to be like, no, that makes sense. I've worked in that capacity. So they're going to adapt to it very quickly. But you've made a product that's very simple for the manufacturer to just throw on and install in 40 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour.
I mean, you can get it down to 30 minutes, but an hour or less, just depending on the person who's installing.
So, I mean, even if it's an upsell, because I'm going over my head, like being a shed sales person, and I'm going, well, what if the customer wants this as an upsell? What if they want it on the end, and it's not installed on my lot? But what if the manufacturer's actually purchasing wholesale units, and they have them available either at the dealer lot, and even the dealer might be able to install, have a number to call.
Absolutely.
I think one day this will be a standard within the industry. Obviously, if you live in a grove of trees and you don't get good sun, this is not for you. And we've had sheds delivered with our systems on in grove of trees, and we'd had to go out there and say, oh, this is why it's not working.
Right. It does need sunlight.
It does need sunlight.
It does.
Ideally facing south, no trees, no shading. Watch your shading on your grounds. But for most new builds, we clear lots for houses. There's always a sunny spot you can find.
Yeah.
And it's convenient, and it's cost effective, and it's going to last.
Plus, you're not limited to being, within 500 feet of your house.
Yeah.
Right.
With trenching and power, a lot of times they don't want to, if you put a shed, at the back of your farm or whatever, you're not going to have power out there unless it's a generator.
Right.
Well, that's where this kind of system comes in for that end user.
Well, and it's a natural source of energy.
Yeah.
I mean, sunlight. So converting that makes a whole lot of sense. And sometimes whether we like it or not, I mean, I'm thinking about, I went to the NBSRA conference the day before the Shed Show. They had a guy there that was a futurist, I think is what they called him. But he's talking about, like how the Ford Mustang adapted to new technologies and things like that with electric cars. And they're good jokes and good memes, but a reality, as opposed to just good jokes and good memes, is that things seem to be moving that direction.
Yes.
For
certain applications.
For certain applications,
wonderful.
even if it's on small scales.
Yes.
They are moving that direction. I don't necessarily embrace it, naturally, because I'm conservative. So conservative minded, I tend to maybe be
go with what you know.
Yes, this is what I know, so I kind of want to stay here. New technologies like that are a little intimidating to learn, and I want to know more about them. So that's purpose for having you on the show here today.
Exactly, because people don't enjoy things that they don't understand.
That's right.
So you can have all the technology in the world at your fingertips, but if you don't understand it, you're not going to use it, and you're certainly not going to enjoy the process.
Have you ever had a customer ask you about how to supply power to their shed? Do you sell electrical kits as an upsell for your sheds currently? Do you want an easy, no-hassle option to offer for your customers when they want to add electric to their sheds? Check out eco-ethics Solar. eco-ethics Solar is looking for shed manufacturers and shed dealers who want to be able to provide a solar electric option to their line of sheds. With eco-ethics Solar, you can purchase the Sun Saver, a solar product specifically designed with the shed owner in mind. Want to offer a larger product that can operate a full tiny home? At eco-ethics Solar, they have the necessary product, training, and capacity to meet your customers' needs. Installation for the Sun Saver is simple and takes just 45 minutes. You can even install it right there in your sales lot or at the manufacturing facility. eco-ethics Solar even provides hands-on in-person training if necessary. Plus, they will provide you with video tutorials and handouts with specific installation instructions that keeps adding a solar-powered electrical system to your shed fast and simple. In many cases, the end user can even perform the installation once the shed is delivered to their home. If you are interested in purchasing a unit for display and then drop shipping your orders or even ordering multiple units to have available as you build, contact my friends at eco-ethics Solar at 336-250-1284 or email sales@ecoethicsolar.com.
So your hope would be maybe reach the manufacturing. You could certainly sell to, let's say, wholesale dealers or whatever. You could sell your product, but I mean, really getting the manufacturers to inquire about eco-ethics Solar and what all packages exist, and then how you can how does that work? You don't want to send an installation crew out, but maybe you do some intense training or something with an initial manufacturer maybe?
Yeah, so the goal would be if we get a manufacturer that comes in new, we figure out, how many units do you want to do, and figure out the best pricing for them on that. I would send Chris out with the first shipment, not in the freight, but separately. He gets to go on the plane.
I was about to say, you get to fly, right? Surely they don't throw you in a suitcase. So.
Although he has gotten almost part of a boat or part of a RV before, like I'm going to charge you extra to keep the engineer. But no, send him out, let them have a day or two of training where he hands-on install, and then following up with video training, handouts, and for the install side, and then also the same on the sales side. So again, I love teaching. I love helping people understand and feel comfortable. Yeah. So I'll make whatever I need to make to get people to that point. And Chris is a wonderful teacher, hands-on. So
I think what I love the most about it is not just the passion that you have; it comes out through your explanation, but your educational value. Like what you're really trying to do is teach people,
right?
As opposed to leave them feeling intimidated.
Right. No.
Because it takes a little bit to understand something that you're not used to.
Absolutely.
I mean, I love your explanation. We're spoiled. We've always had the grid. We've always had electric. Ever since I could remember, it's always been available. But
and you just turn the light switch on, and they send you a bill once a month.
They send you a bill. Yeah, it's done, right?
Yeah.
I love it. Kind of explain to me how the transition works from the sunlight hitting the panel initially.
It's actually a chemical reaction. So that's what's happening the same way as, like we were just discussing, photosynthesis happens from biology class. There's two dissimilar things, and the electrons actually just flow from, let's say, the panels. I'm not going to get into the chemistry because they're kind of complex how they're made, but it is a chemical reaction. So electrons flow from a positive to a negative, from a negative to a positive. That's just how they flow. And when you have two dissimilar things, the electron will move over to that. So what we do with the solar panel, it just takes some of those electrons and we divert them to your charge controller as a way to charge your batteries. But it's all chemical reactions that are happening within the panel that allow this to happen. So and it's very basic chemistry. It's not super complicated, but it's just they use a bunch of different materials to make the solar cell. Yeah. But you can make a very basic, inefficient solar cell with very basic chemicals.
Well, I like your explanation of like the car. I mean, you know, the batteries sort of, in my explanation, my poor explanation, that the battery's the motor that makes the car run. You just got to put the fuel in to get the motor running. You got and that's what the solar panel's doing. You can charge the battery without the solar panel?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So this time of year, we're in winter. We're about to hit the winter solstice and have the shortest day of the year.
Right.
We tend to have a lot of clouds where we are in North Carolina. And so on those days, you'll still bring in some solar power, but it'll be reduced. It won't be the maximum potential of the panel.
Gotcha.
In those events, if you do have a drop cord or a generator, you can plug into the system and charge the batteries directly from that generator or drop cord, and then when it's full, unplug it. Historically, generators are on-demand use. So as long as you need an appliance to run, the generator's got to be running, which means you may run the generator all day. With these systems, you may only have to run the generator an hour, and then you can turn it off. So you may still be using some fossil fuels, but you're being more efficient with the fuel that you've got.
Yeah, the battery holds the charge.
Right.
And then the goal is you don't have to run the battery all the way down.
Right.
Like you said, lithium 20% if possible, but you can.
Yeah.
And then recharge it. And it'll still get naturally recharged as the sun comes back out. Anyway.
Yep. And we've made this system, it's very efficient with its transfer of power. So when you have power coming into it from a drop cord or something, it efficiently charges your batteries, and then you can shut your generator back down. Plus the solar's coming in. There's multiple ways to have
recharge.
your system charged up.
Yeah.
Let's think of I'm thinking of a manufacturing question maybe off the top of my head that I'm going to try to ask the right questions that they would probably have much better than me, but I'm just trying to think. Okay, so the panel goes on the roof. That screws into the roof. Does it matter if you've got a metal roof, if you got a shingled roof?
Yes.
The mounting system will be different for metal versus shingle.
Okay.
For metal, we use Versa brackets, which are backed by butyl tape. It's a gray sticky tape.
Yep.
And so that as you screw into that butyl tape, the butyl squishes down and creates a seal. The screws we use also have rubber washers. So you've got that extra rubber on top, and then we recommend sealing with Dicor self-leveling, which is what the industry standard for RVs is, because a lot of RVs have for roof penetration. So we try, where there is no standard, we try to find a standard that even if it's in a different industry, it makes sense and it's proven. Because there's not a lot of rules and regulations for this, so we're making it up as we go and trying to set the bar as high as we can for quality. Because what's the saying? Do it once, do it right, versus be quick and lazy and have to come back out. It's not a true saying.
Sure.
I'm terribly...
That's okay. We're going to quote you on that one.
Oh, gosh, no.
But the S5 Versa brackets that we use for the panels are specifically designed for mounting solar panels on metal roofs. So that's what they are for. We've done hundreds of these panels. We don't have any leaks or anything like that. We use the same fasteners that you would already use on your metal roof anyway. And it's a very simple installation. For a shingled roof, we have what's called a flashing foot. So it would go up underneath a layer of shingles, and it has flashing, and then each foot would actually have to be lag screwed in, and then you would mount your panel to that. So the installation is a little bit different, but both are very quick.
Very, very cool. I'm trying to think. A builder would say measure once, or what is it? Measure twice, cut once. So
yes.
We both messed it up. Now
we're in it together.
Now we're even. So what happens then? A cord goes from the panel, comes down into the unit?
Yes. So from there, we have a new type of connector that we would provide with each unit. So kind of whenever they would order the units, we would get a rough idea of how long our panel connector needs to be, and then we would provide a 10-foot or 15-foot or 20-foot, 40-foot, depending on the shed. It just depends. From that piece actually mounts to the roof. There would be a hole for that wire to come down. Once that piece is mounted, then you just feed it down like you would any electrical wiring, and then it just quick connects into the top of our box. Okay. But there's no soldering, there's no crimping. It's all a quick, easy unit. The panels have the quick connectors on them as well. So once that basically is mounted to the roof. The panel just plugs into that, and then it comes through the roof down to the unit, and you just plug it into the box.
The units can be mounted. They can be set on the floor. I'm assuming there's different options there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the French cleat option, and then there's the lag bolt option.
Yeah, you could use a French cleat where it just sets on the cleat. So you mount that piece first, and then you just pick the unit up, set it on the wall. Or you could have, brackets at each corner of the box. One person hold it up, another person screw it in. Yeah. It just depends on your situation. So
it needs accessibility because do the batteries have to be changed out at any point?
No. This new unit, most solar panels are typically warranted for 25 years at 80%. So in 25 years, it'll produce 80% of what it originally would when it was new. Okay. The batteries, with lithium batteries, you're looking at between 3,000 and 5,000 cycles. And a cycle equates to basically a day. So 3,000 to 5,000 days between
8 to 10 years.
Yeah, 8 to 10 years roughly.
Can be more if you don't discharge it as deeply.
Yeah, and if you're only using it intermittently on the weekends, the batteries could last for the next 10 to 15 years. Mm-hmm. That's the beauty of lithium batteries, where a lead acid battery, even if you don't use it, 5 years, it's done. Yeah. We all change out our car batteries between 3 and 5 years. Yep. That's just something we're all used to. Yep. So,
gosh, it makes a lot of sense. So does it work sort of the same way whenever you beef up the system? Like you were saying, you just add the units to it. Do they need room to breathe? Does it matter if it's enclosed?
The batteries do not need room to breathe, where typical lead acid batteries would actually off-gas hydrogen gas, so they need breathing room. Lithium batteries don't off-gas anything, so they can be completely sealed in the container. The only thing that needs room to breathe is the inverter itself. Okay. So under a heavy load, its fans will kick on, so it needs to be able to ventilate itself. Okay. So I wouldn't put that in a very tight space, like in a closet or something.
Sure.
It just needs some airflow to keep itself cool.
So and you can see on the unit where the ventilation points are, and you just don't want to block those, just like a refrigerator or a microwave. Sure. Give it a little gap.
And makes a lot of sense. And people could put multiple units on each shed if they wanted to.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think about the sheds are getting bigger and bigger.
I know. 40 foot I saw recently.
40 foot, 48. I've seen some in Texas. I think I've seen like 60. You think about what people are doing, and double wides.
Yep.
But then I think more people are trying to find an alternative to I live in Illinois, so property taxes is a big conversation in Illinois. So I suspect that a lot of people are looking at an alternative to that when they think about off-grid living. You're truly able to provide a fully functioning power system that's off-grid, that's not connected in any way to any hard lines.
Right.
And then you can even charge those with traditional fossil fuels if necessary. If they go out, tiny homes becoming a big thing, right?
It is.
I'm assuming you guys get calls all the time.
Constantly,
solar.
Yes.
What's your goal to kind of help to penetrate the market in sheds? Just get those shed manufacturers to call and have a conversation with you?
Yeah. Would love it. Yeah. Okay. If there's a need, if there's a desire, we're here. Yeah. If there isn't, I'm not going to say. Yeah. Other than that one day, I've never cold called anybody. I don't want to. I don't like those calls. Yeah. People are busy. They have things to do, but we're here if you need us. And if you want to talk, I'll spend as much time as I need to talking. But yeah, call
and
us
educating.
If you need us.
And
educating, absolutely.
The value there is that you guys really want to take the time to show somebody what it is and how to understand. We're just gonna have to do some video. That's what it boils down to. That way people can get a visual kind of the unit. You know what I'm saying? What the inverter looks like, what the battery, the panel. I'd love to get a video of one mounted onto a shed. We may be able to find something or get into something. Gosh, I think you guys are going to do great. Obviously, with dealers, if they're working in a consignment capacity underneath like a manufacturer, they might not have the full understanding.
Right.
But you welcome that, I'm sure, just the same.
Yeah, we've gotten, in 2020, I was asked by the manufacturers we were working with at the time to do a training video. And so for the sales lot owners. And so I did. They asked for a quiz at the end. I did that. I went and saw and sat down with every single one of them in North Carolina, South Carolina, and I think Georgia. So, I mean, I'm happy to drive around.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
That's not a problem. I'll do videos. We'll do little cheat sheets.
We really believe in this product. So we just want everyone to understand it. Mm-hmm. And once they use it, I mean, even if you just wanted one of the units just to test it out, I'm sure once someone had this unit and they realized, like, this is really cool, I can go in and use it anytime I want. Once it clicks, like we were talking about earlier, once it clicks with them, then you need more of it. Yeah. You want to add more panels, you want to add more batteries, you want to up your capacity. Those are all good extra additions to the unit that we offer, but even the base unit itself is great for, power tools and lights and all kinds of different things. So.
Well, and I personally, just speaking on my behalf, I think it'd be really cool if like the financing side could get behind it, either from a traditional role of financing or even the rental agencies that, if they can get behind it, it becomes part of the structure and they can just incorporate that inside the rental agreement. It becomes a little bit more affordable for the end user and the customer, whereas if they might not have to pay for the unit.
That's something else as well. There is a 30% tax credit for solar.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we're not CPAs and we're not recommending anything as far as that, but that tax credit with some business savvy people, they might be able to utilize that for their company. They may be able to, buy these units and use that 30% tax credit, then resell it, or the end user might be able to get the tax credit. Again, that's a question for a CPA, but
there may also be at the manufacturing level a way to get carbon credits
yes.
for the financiers or the RTOs if they're offering a product that does offset fossil fuel use. I know some of our recent clients have talked about how even at the UN level, they're starting to require businesses to have a score based on their carbon levels and offsets. And I think there's a lot of incentives out there for companies that are offering to offset and those that push it and those that, work within it.
Well, I mean, I think you already see like the embracing of solar, even in like our more traditional communities, like our plain communities, the Amish and Mennonite. I mean, there's several that listen in on this call and they're familiar already with using batteries and solar and things like that as it fits their culture, right? Yeah. So they sort of already embrace that conservative nature of eliminating the fossil fuel use through something like battery. I know it's not fun always, you know what I mean? Like, I'm still a fan of a 1971 Mach 1 Chevy with a 351 Cleveland engine, and that just sounds cool. Sounds way more fun than a Prius, right? You know, but...
And again, it's situational. If you live in a city and you only do a 30-mile range every day, by all means go electric. Yeah, but if you have to do over the road, like you travel multiple states, it may not be feasible for you just because the range and the time lag for recharging.
Right. And the technology is constantly evolving. I mean, hopefully in the next 10 to 15 to 20 years, we're going to see the battery technology evolve a little bit more. Right. We just don't know. There's so many different things happening in this field, from solar to batteries. As it stands right now, the long distance travel and stuff with batteries, just the infrastructure, the network's not totally there, but we are building it. So if the more people we can get on with this kind of bandwagon, it's a really cool thing.
I love the hybrid still right now, where we are in innovation and capability. I'm still a fan of the true hybrids, so that you're still reducing the fossil fuel. You're not completely getting rid of it, because again, it's such an energy dense fuel source. Yeah, it's so hard to beat. But if you can integrate battery into it and reduce consumption, again, more efficiency, that phrase of actual energy efficiency, that's the way to go. Yeah.
So. No, I love it. Should we talk price point?
Sure.
I was about to say, a lot of customers are probably going to want to know. Yeah. They can call you and find out, but transparency is always a cool thing. So
absolutely.
By all means, I'm curious myself.
So I only have pricing for the manufacturers because I'm actually leaving the end price up to the manufacturer level to decide, because I want everyone to make margins.
And everyone's market is a little bit different. So.
Right.
Well, yeah, and you're going to have shed manufacturers that are moving, thousands of buildings versus hundreds of buildings, and all that's going to play a role.
Yeah, so that'll get into the volume pricing. But I've got some rough MSRP numbers. For our SunSaver base unit, you're looking at about $4,000.
MSRP.
Oh, what did I say? MRSP? Sorry, MSRP. You'll get a 325 watt solar panel, a 3,000 volt amp hybrid inverter charger with the charge controller built in, 1.2 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery. That's basically a 12 volt 100 amp hour battery.
Okay.
So if you do the Ohm's law, that's
Gotcha.
the what you get with the volts and the amps. The batteries are built in, already built-in fuses, breakers, and again, you can charge it with solar, shore power, or generator. It puts out 120 volt AC, and it is expandable. With this setup, on a good solar day, your recharge time from completely dead is about 3.7 hours. Obviously, if it's cloudy, if it's nighttime,
Sure.
it's going to be changed.
And then we have tiered pricing for
Right.
the units as well. So if you want more units, obviously the price goes down.
Sure.
But as far as MSRP, all of that is kind of up in the air because it's untested. So we really don't know what that's going to be. But as far as what the base units sell for on there, that's 1 to 4 units, we're looking $2,600. 5 to 10, $2,499, and so on and so forth. So
very nice.
Very
affordable.
Yeah, and we're trying to leave. There's meat on the bone for everybody there.
Sure.
So like if the manufacturers get these, there's good margins for them to make, and then really truly they can set their own MSRP for their region at this point. Once we have more of them out there, I'm sure as a company we'll revisit that and kind of set a general baseline for everybody. But every market's different. I mean, things are more expensive in California than they are in Alabama. So,
No, absolutely.
They're going to have to charge different prices for them, and we understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're leaving some room there in the margins, for them to do that. But, I mean, it's very affordable and very realistic for somebody who's wanting to offer, a constant power source that's always readily available.
And that's one of the ideas from building this unit is to beat out what it would cost to have power trenched to your shed,
for sure,
and things like that. Because a lot of those numbers can go
very
between
expensive,
$4,000 and $10,000 depending on where it is.
We had a shed lot, and we actually had a 16 by 40 that we used as an office, and we trenched power to it, and I would have been so much happier to just have a couple of solar units on there, even if we would have had to charge the battery, because I think about being at a lot. I mean, I know sales lots that have generators that they use for their power because they don't want to trench. They don't want to put in permanent power. They need to offer a little bit of heat in there or whatever, but maybe they're doing a little propane something or whatever. But all they need is a computer and some lights and some very basic functions to be a sales lot.
Right.
I mean, it even works for even somebody who's selling out of a shed.
We have a lot of these units on sales lot buildings.
Sheds
They're
in their
using
offices.
it for exactly like you described.
Yeah.
They're using it already for their computers, their lights, fans, things like that. So
it just, I don't know, all of it makes perfect sense. The price point seems to make sense to me. I think reaching the manufacturers is the key here. I mean, I think you could drop ship to the end user, and there's probably some value there, and I'm sure you guys probably get those calls. But to me, the manufacturer, like embracing the technology, learning about it, and then putting it on and training their dealers, or even having you guys there to train their dealers in a company meeting or something like that makes the most sense. But man, I just hope you get call after call. I hope people will reach out to you, find out more about it. It's like you said, it's not a new product, but it's a newer and growing product. It's certainly something that's heading in the direction upward. We're not losing steam whenever it comes to solar and new energy resources. We're sort of in that hybrid moment of our own lives, right, of trying to figure it out, and fossil fuels and politics. Goodness. Wow.
Yeah. And that's where, with this product, it's not new, but it's still, even if you ordered a bunch of components off Amazon, you're still going to have some wiring knowledge to assemble and make it all work.
Yeah.
Where a unit like this, we've already done all that legwork, so it's just quick connects, plug it in, and you're off to the races. So.
And a good benefit for the sheds is sheds are temporary structures.
Right.
The way that this unit is wired, because it is plug and play, you can just take a pigtail, like a lot of sheds come with, plug it into the unit, and then you're still under temporary, non-permitting
everything's considered temporary because it's not part of structured wiring. So
makes perfect
sense. And where that gets into code issues and all that's authority having jurisdiction, and every county's code is different, and it gets complicated. Where this kind of circumvents a lot of that. So
because it's not any different than a generator. You can pull a
It's
generator
temporary
out.
power.
Exactly.
And that's what these units are. It's just a solar generator, but it's no different. It's just instead of gasoline, your solar panels producing the power.
I don't see why you wouldn't get calls. I can't help but think manufacturers are going to be interested in your product. I'm excited about it because anything that's new in the shed industry, and I think we talked about that before we got on air, is some of the challenges of marketing inside the shed industry is that you're marketing the same product over and over and over from a large big box store, shed manufacturer to a small mom and pop. You're all still trying to create some individualness inside of your, and quality is certainly the one that steers the ship, but having something cool like a power resource that you can sell. I mean, your customers are just going to eat it up.
Each person a competitive edge on that sales, but it's all about the end user. I mean, that's what this is all about, is what does the customer want? And from what we've learned, this is what the customer wants. They want to be able to have the power at their fingertips to turn a light on and it work.
I think it's great. If somebody wants to find out, is there anything else you want to share before your information? If anybody wants to find out how to just kind of do a discovery call, get in contact with you, who should they call? What's a good number, good email?
You'll get me, 336-250-1284, or you can email us at sales@ecoethicsolar.com. All that comes to us, or to me.
That's great. Well, I'm excited about it. I hope that manufacturers will, will see the value in it, and you'll get several calls, and they'll just want to know more, and who knows, maybe the business will take off, and we'll have a long-lasting relationship in this industry as we all move forward. So appreciate you guys being on the show today. We'll do some video stuff and try to get some things out there. And I just hope it's helpful for you guys.
Hey, thank you for taking time to sit down with us.
I appreciate it. If you guys don't care, we're sort of a conservative industry, so a lot of times I'll end the show in prayer. Is it okay if I just...
Absolutely.
All right. Lord, thank you for this day, this opportunity just to be here. We ask for your traveling mercies as we go. We ask that you'd bless this business, that it would move forward as you'd see fit, that you'd open up doors and opportunities inside this industry, and that it would help those who purchase the sheds in the end to just kind of be something that's fulfilling a need. We ask that you continue to give us the education and the heart to train and just teach people about new opportunities and new ways that still serve you. And ask that you bless all of us and all those listeners that are listening today. In Jesus' name, amen. Thank you, guys. We appreciate it.